Okay, this is everything Fox News isn't telling you. Or they're leaving out. They're in good faith in what they report, but they're missing a lot of stuff. And this is going to be a report what I see as a discrepancy between what they tell you and what they leave out. Okay, the reason I think there's a lot of questions that are unanswered that have to do with the health care, repeal and replace, why it failed. Even John McCain isn't driving the point home. I mean, John McCain, by casting that vote that way, I mean, he got attention, but he never really brought out what's wrong with it. And whether that was really a good thing, the main thing where he really fouled up was he's not explaining anywhere why this thing why it failed, and why they can't get a healthcare system that gets to the root of the problem instead of a band-aid on cancer like Obamacare. Okay. The corporate-owned media doesn't tell you. Well, Fox does a pretty good job sometimes, but they're missing a lot of stuff. Trump made a comment. He was giving a speech just recently. And I think it was one of the police. He's talking about the police, I'm not sure. He said, well, they need to pass the health care bill. And he goes, the swamp. That's exactly what it is. That's why they couldn't come up with anything. That's why it's a band-aid on cancer, because of the swamp. But he didn't drive the point home, what's wrong with the swamp. Charles, the only one I ever hear on Fox that really seems to get to the bottom of things is like you watch Fox News, most of them don't really understand. I don't think they're political science majors. They don't understand the political process. The economy. None of them can define the word capitalism very well. And the only ones I think people really understand it. Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, Charles Krauthammer does a pretty good job sometimes. He said we need tort reform. Well, actually, why the costs keep rising has a lot to do with tort reform. And Nancy Pelosi was on Fox Sunday with Chris Wallace. Why didn't he ask her, how much campaign money did you receive from trial lawyers? Because the trial lawyer lobby is what keeps tort reform from happening. And it's a bunch of frivolous money. It's expense. A whole lot of expense is going out. Why you can't have affordable health care has a lot to do with it. And ask her how much money did you get from the trial lawyers, and then call the Office of Accountability and find out exactly how much you got, if it's possible, and say, well, no, you received so many dollars of campaign money. That's not the truth, and tort reform is the reason you can't fix the problem. Now, why Chris Wallace didn't ask her that, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. And that's what Charles Krauthammer brought out, that it was a trial lawyer lobby, and the campaign money, the campaign finance corruption, is why they can't get tort reform and keep those costs down. That's why the bill failed, why it didn't work. And that's mainly the Democrat Party that gets all the campaign money. And, well, if they're Republicans, why aren't they bringing this out? The problem with Mitch McConnell strongly supports campaign finance corruption. He ought to be voted out. He's been in there a long time. He's right in bed with it. He's the one causing it. And someone needs to ask Mitch McConnell, when the campaign finance corruption is the main reason you can't get a health care bill through, why are you supporting it? Why do you support it? No one seems to bring this out either. He's someone that ought to be... Trump made a good point. He says, why don't we get rid of Obamacare and put everybody in a situation where they don't have anything and the cost just goes skyrocketing? Because the only one that can override corruption is the public. The public doesn't do anything. The public doesn't say, hey, get rid of the corruption. They don't do anything. They don't march on Washington. They don't do crap. And the only way you could ever override the corruption would be if everybody was in a real pickle. There was no, money at all for it. In a way, they went even higher, and, you had a bigger mess than you've already got. So he's probably got the right idea there. And maybe those people in trailer houses in Kentucky that keep voting McConnell back in would finally get off their ass and get rid of the son of a gun. He should have been out of there 10, 15 years ago. He's full of corruption. He supports it. He's a big problem. Campaign money is why you can't get affordable health care. public anger could override campaign money. The people were angry enough with McConnell, they'd vote him out. The mandate and fine. Last year I was down to one meal every other day due to my job not paying the bills. Which, if I hadn't had that Obamacare fine, I would have had enough money to eat every day. And I looked, and they reported on why that fine is there, and it had to do with the revolving door. It turned out the person that put that fine through, that worked on that committee in Congress, that put that mandate in there, got a job with the AMA after she left Congress. Which means they told her, hey, you put a big fine on there and you tax working people that can't pay their bills and don't get enough to eat, and we'll give you a good job. Now, where the hell was Obama when this happened? And they try to say he was a good president. He wasn't. He was not a good president any more than the man on the moon. The purpose of the Democrat Party is to protect the working class. And that's very obviously a violation of it. And why the hell? And people haven't brought that out. But anyway... the woman on the committee in Congress that created this fine was given a job with the healthcare industry if she put the fine in place. That means that because of corruption, people aren't able to eat lunch while the healthcare industry is filthy rich and getting richer. I wonder if anybody gets that. Gerrymandering, well, a revolving door, campaign finance, corruption. Those are the three problems. That's why you can't get you can't get affordable health care. Screwing the working poor, and the reason health care bill failed. Several Republicans in Congress have received $5 million in campaign money from the AMA, the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry. Unless Trump tells us who they are, how much they're getting, and exactly who they're getting it from, first, middle, last name, who they represent, you won't get a bill through and get the public to write and complain. I was watching Fox the other night, a black guy with a cowboy hat in law enforcement, and two girls started using a wrecked car analogy. Okay, this shows you where Fox doesn't know a whole lot. Okay, the black guy, well, I mean, he had part of it, but none of them go far enough. He said it's just constant bickering, and they don't do anything. They need to stop the constant bickering in Congress. Okay, that's not the whole problem. It's just, that's very little of what's going on in Congress. Here's the thing. I mean, listening to these three talk is a little bit like taking your car to Kmart when you got a fuel pump that doesn't work. Your fuel pump, it heats up, it shuts off, you're way out in the middle of New Mexico, your car quits on you. So you take it to Kmart. And they replace a bunch of hoses on it. Replace a couple of hoses. And, that isn't the problem. Well, then you go to Donnie Freeman, a local guy that's real smart, is a good mechanic. He puts a suction cup on the thing, lets the thing run 2 hours until it shuts off, and then he figures out, no suction, coming out. That's proof it's a fuel pump. Here's the thing that Fox doesn't get. You're trying to have them fix the government, right? And they're saying it's the bickering in Congress. The truth is the bickering in Congress, there's a reason for it. And it has to do with the way the government's set up. And no one at Fox ever gets this. But it has to do with the way democracy works, the way it's set up. I've said playing this on other reports, but apparently Fox News didn't get the word because they're still, not getting it. You have, in a normal democracy, you have a centrist voter. You have the left ideology and the right ideology. And they're pretty far to the right, the left's pretty far to the left. But the centrist voter comes in there. And the centrist voter, the fear of not getting reelected is why it tends to move, the fear of not getting reelected tends to move the government to the center, so you compromise. And most of the voters, the mainstream voter, tend to be centrists. So it brings them together. But in a corrupt democracy, where you have campaign money, where the election's an auction, it goes to the highest bidder, they aren't worried about who the voter's going to vote for because they know they can run a negative campaign and use that campaign money, and the one that runs the most negative ads wins. The one with the most campaign money wins. So you got the trial lawyers on one side and the environmentalists on the left, and you have a corporate America and the AMA, the doctors, the hospitals, pharmaceutical industry, all on the right with campaign money. They aren't going to listen to the voter. They don't give a damn what the voter wants. All they're listening to is that campaign money, and that tends to suck both sides towards the periphery. So the voter's totally out of the equation, and what the voter wants. The voter's in the equation, but the voter's going to fall hook, line, and sinker for the native campaign ads, and they always do. So what does it do? It's corruption, and so that's what's causing the bickering. And you can't. It's the system that's messed up, and Fox should have brought that out. I don't know why they didn't, but anyway. It's basically a design flaw in the whole, the way Congress is set up, the corruption in it. And unless you get campaign finance reform and get rid of the corruption, you're not going to solve this health care problem, or you circumvent it in some way. Which, Jill Stein suggested first and second choice was voting. David Bratt, ran on, got all his campaign money he ran on YouTube and used $500,000 worth of campaign money and beat somebody that had $5 million. And he just was on YouTube and went door to door. And $27 a piece, the way Sanders did. Unless people start doing that, they're not going to solve the problem. Unless they let Sanders start talking in Congress, unless Trump and Sanders get together and team up and get Jill Stein in there too, she knows more than either one of them. Unless they do that, that's what I'd do if I was Trump. But they're not going to solve the problem. Okay, you have the populace, which, okay, I did that already. Then the middle, due to the fear of not getting reelected, and the corrupt democracy, okay, I already did that too. Well, anyway, it sucks Congress. There's a sucking sound towards the periphery where it means the, far left, far right. And that's why you can't get tort reform. And they need to bring that out. I think the reason Obamacare is imploding has to do with the AMA and its unrealistic prices. The campaign finance corruption and government's inability to deal with this. You have to cut through corruption to get affordable health care. As Sanders said when he debated Hillary. And Hillary kept arguing the numbers just don't make it. We can't get affordable health care. The numbers just don't make it. And then Sanders came back and said, well, hey, if the numbers don't make it, how did they do it in Scotland? And outsmarted her, went right over her head. Well, I could come back in, how'd they do it in 1958? The hospitals didn't go bankrupt then. They were doing real good in 1958, but you had affordable health care then. How'd they do it back then? The numbers don't make it. You first have to define capitalism, which I've done many times. It takes both party ideologies for capitalism to work, to do what it did in the 50s. That means you need trade unions, antitrust. Well, we need to fix the system. I don't know about trade unions, but antitrust laws on hospitals. There's a law that came through back in, according to 1945, you can't put antitrust laws on hospitals. They need to repeal that. They need to get the legislative history on it anyway and find out why it's there. Stop mergers. No copyrights on drugs. More non-traditional treatments, allowing people more access to Canadian drugs in hospitals, which means they'll bring the prices down, and so on. More competition in general. What happens when you have a hospital merger? You have layoffs. You have two hospitals in town. Like in Lincoln, Nebraska, you had, we're going to merge, and what a wonderful thing that is. Well, actually, what happens, you have layoffs, you have no incentive to get a CAT scan that cures you, no technological advancement, you have higher prices, and you can't compete on the international market because of unrealistic prices and lack of technological advancement, those two things. And the ratio of imports and exports is what makes a country strong. That's what brings wealth into the country. So you're not really a capitalist system at all. It's just a socialist system. So if we had price controls on the AMA, we'd have it less socialist than it is right now. That's what people don't get, and it'd be more a capitalist than it is right now. Like Warren Buffett says, it's 1/6 of the nation's economy. People lose their house. It becomes a tapeworm on the nation's wealth, consumer confidence, it ruins that, and the economy, and like I say, and competing on the international market. All those things, and technological advancement, which spreads into other areas which are important. Like I say, the top and the bottom would be wealthier. If you got rid of the corruption in the AMA, even Warren Buffett would be wealthier. And the whole country would be wealthier. It's a drain on the whole. It's inefficient. without the campaign finance corruption the AMA is involved in. Jill Stein, okay, I already said that. We need to stop the unrealistic price of $7 for a Bayer aspirin. There needs to be laws against that. They just put laws on, according to Kelly, what's her name, from Fox, that was on tonight. She said that they've had laws against the airlines on unrealistic prices. Why don't they do that with the AMA? Stop just because of the campaign money. That's why. Well, it wouldn't be non-capitalist to do that. There's always been we've adopted British common law. There's always been a thing in British common law that says if it's an exorbitant price, or an unconscionable situation, that you can't charge an exorbitant price, and that's what this is. It's an unconscionable situation. So there's nothing un-American about putting a cap on a $75 Bayer aspirin. The gouge insurance industry. Let's see, they have, like I say, if it's affecting 1/6 of the economy and it's a tapeworm on the economy, it's something that needs to be straightened out. These kind of, we need to repeal the law. I said that. We need to admit more people to med school. They said for a long time that the AMA was controlling med school, keeping people out of it for no good reason. There's laws that a GP has to be a surgeon. I don't know, but a lot of GPs don't do surgery. So if that puts more people in med school, and they're just as good if they don't do surgery, they just send you to someone else that specializes. They have to, things like that, they need to open the doors to med school, let more people in that are qualified, and make sure the pharmaceutical industry isn't keeping people out of med school, and the AMA, and they may be. They've had a history of it before. It's $2 million for a ride to the Denver hospital. Why is it $2 million for a ride to the Denver hospital when you have a heart attack? That's something that needs to be looked into. Apparently it's not a capitalist system there. There's no competition with it. That needs to be changed, and it takes, have to override campaign men and corruption to do it. Ted Cruz suggested we go out of state, but that which is capitalism right there, capitalism in action, competition. The insurance company where you sell insurance across state lines, guess what stopped that? The insurance lobby and the campaign money. Well, why don't they bring out who these people are and how they said one Republican had $5 million in campaign money. Find out who they are, how much money they're getting, and for who they're getting it, and Trump needs to do that and let the public know it. And I guess that's all. I guess that's all I have to say on that. But anyway, unless Sanders and Trump and Jill Stein get together, they're the only ones that seem to understand all that, and the rest of Congress doesn't know. Listen to Kasich, he doesn't know crap. Some of those people, they're idiots. Yeah, those people that are on Fox doesn't usually get it either. Krauthammer's the only one on there, so yeah, put Krauthammer in there too. People that know what they're doing, and Ralph Nader and several others, but they ought to get together with those people that really know, and a lot of people are on YouTube, like Chink. He knows a lot more than those ones. They understand the political system, political process, the economy and political system, how they work together, how they don't work, and how to fix it. Those people in Congress that talk, that you get on there on Fox, and even Wallace, he doesn't know crap. All they know how to do is knock Trump constantly because they don't like him. Yeah, he's kind of a racist. They don't like him, but that's not fixing the problem. I guess that's all I got to say on that one. Thanks for watching. I like